Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. We're getting reveals of all of the new Commander pre-constructed decks from Streets of New Capenna this week, which means it's upgrade time. If you want to pick up any of these precons or even just pre-order the singles of the exclusive cards within them, be sure to check out my affiliate Harry Tarantula. Use my promo code CMDR5 for 5% off your first order and CMDR Mechanic to help support the channel. Today we're looking at the new Riveteers Rampage deck, a black, red, and green deck that is very creature focused, leaning into the new mechanic Blitz, which we'll look at further in a moment. This list has some very clear strengths, but falls flat in a few areas as well, but overall I really like it straight out of the box. Speaking of, if you like the channel, please be sure to subscribe. Every new subscriber and viewer helps, so please be sure to hit that button for more precon upgrades, deck techs, and wild brews each week. Our box legend is Henzie Toolbox Torre, a 3-mana 3/3 Devil Rogue that gets better and better as the game goes on. He gives each creature in your hand with mana value 4 or greater Blitz, with a Blitz cost equal to its mana cost. Blitz lets you cast the creature, giving it haste, and making you sacrifice it at end of turn. But when it dies, no matter how it dies, you draw a card. Additionally, Henzie discounts Blitz costs you pay by 1 fewer for each time you've cast your commander, whether that's Henzie here or not, from your command zone. So, giving you the ability to sneak attack all of your creatures is pretty strong, especially with that discount. But the wording on the last ability means that if Henzie is in the 99 of a deck with, say, Rograk and Rayhan at the helm, you could be discounting that Blitz cost by 3+ mana on turn 4. But Henzie isn't alone. No. In the box is the new Beamtown Bullies, a commander that immediately gets my Brewer's hat on. This 4-mana 4/4 Ogre Devil Warrior has both Vigilance and Haste. Amazing already. But you can tap them to have target opponent whose turn it is put target non-legendary creature from your graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. It gains haste and is goaded. Exile it at the beginning of your next turn. Why would you ever want to give an opponent a creature? Well, if that creature is a leveler or an inverter of truth, it's so that you can take them out right away by exiling their entire library. This is a deck where you fill it with big creatures with drawbacks and give them to your opponents to suffer through. It's a shame that it says non-legendary, otherwise it would be fun to give someone a Phage the Untouchable. I'm really looking forward to brewing both of these, but I think the Beamtown Bullies deserves its own dedicated deck, so let's see how we can make further use of Henzie. But first, I want to take a look at a few unique cards printed in this precon, the ones that I think make great candidates for inclusion in other decks. Starting with Jolene the Plunder Queen. This 4-mana 2/2 human warrior is absolutely going to get her own brew here on the channel sometime in the future. She reads, whenever a player attacks one or more of your opponents, that attacking player creates a treasure token. If you would create one or more treasure tokens, instead create those tokens +1. Sacrifice 5 treasures, put 5 +1/+1 counters on Jolene. So Jolene here, I'm going to have to resist singing Dolly Parton every time I say her name, is like the red-green version of Edric Spymaster of Trest, encouraging everyone to attack someone other than you with the promise of treasures. That sounds a little group huggy, but she also immediately doubles the benefit that you receive from herself and from other cards within your deck by giving you 2 treasures on attack of an opponent. That's a huge benefit to you right there. But the fact that she can make herself bigger with unused treasures as well, she's a real threat. I want to build around her for sure. Then we have Grimegorger, a 4-mana green and black 3/3 horror with menace. When Grimegorger attacks, exile up to 1 card of each card type from defending player's graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on Grimegorger for each card exiled this way. The card types are instant, sorcery, enchantment, creature, artifact, planeswalker, and tribal. With tribal being a very small fraction of cards, this is 5 to 6 cards worth of graveyard hate on each attack, and equally as many counters. It reminds me a lot of the recent Froghemoth, though this gets big before it connects for damage rather than after. I really like it as a repeatable option for both damage and graveyard removal, and it can be a big boy each time it swings. Now, speaking of big, we have Reign of Riches, maybe my favorite card in all of this round of Commander Precons. This 5 mana enchantment immediately refunds 2 treasure tokens on enters the battlefield. Then, the first spell you cast each turn that uses mana from a treasure has Cascade, meaning you exile cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card with lower mana value and cast it for free, putting the revealed cards on the bottom of your library. This just makes treasures even wilder than they already were. It turns the first spell each turn into a free Cascade and doubles up on the value you get from it. It makes treasures right away, and the wording means that you can use mana from treasures anyway, like with a Galazith Prismari or an Inspiring Statuary. This is hands down one of the best cards for any deck that even incidentally makes treasures. I love it. I'm going to put it in my treasures deck right away. Lastly, we have Riveteers Confluence, a 5 mana sorcery that lets you choose from 3 options, choosing any option more than once. You can choose from draw a card and lose a life. Riveteers Confluence deals 1 damage to each creature and planeswalker you don't control, and you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Aside from the third option, options 1 and 2 are worth 1 mana as a normal effect. That means choosing either of them is paying 5 mana for only 3 mana worth of effects at sorcery speed. This may be the worst of the confluences. It's just not worth it. Skip this one, cut it from decks. With these new cards out of the way, let's take a look at the list. You can find the existing list and my updated list in the description below by following the links to my sponsor, Moxfield. Moxfield is the best deck building platform out there, and as someone who is brewing upgrades to all 5 of these new Capenna Precons, they make it easier than ever. Bulk edit, changing print versions, and sorting by price makes it so that I can stay within budget and you get these guides as soon as possible. Be sure to check out my Moxfield profile link in the description below and follow me there. Out of the box, Riveteers Rampage is a decent creature-focused deck with some real big beaters at the high end of the curve. Focusing on Henzie's ability to reduce their blitz costs really shines here, as paying 1 less to sneak in a Thragtusk or a Green Warden of Marasa or a Woodfall Primus is basically best case scenario for what you want to be doing here. These are big creatures with enters the battlefield and dies effects and are perfect for being blitzed into play. It's really telling that all of the new unique cards in the deck are at the lower end of the curve, with known curve toppers like Inferno Titan, Avenger of Zendikar, and Artisan of Kozilek included in the list by default. And the deck does an amazing job of giving you things to do with those creatures once you've blitzed them into play too, including Life's Legacy, Victimize, and Evolutionary Leap, means you have sacrifice fodder that you paid less to get into play and are going to lose anyways. Might as well make the most of it by having them replace themselves. Having a strong enters the battlefield trigger is key here too, like on Garruk's Uprising and Warstorm Surge. Getting even more out of these temporary big beefy boys is synergy enablers. Then we have dies triggers as well, like on Deathreap Ritual, which helps us draw a card in each turn we sacrifice a blitzed creature, as well as the new Next of Kin allowing you to replace a sacrificed creature with another one that won't disappear this time, and the new Industrial Advancement doing the same thing and replacing the end of turn blitz sacrifice trigger to get a little bit further and replace the body with another one. These are all strong synergistic effects that lead into what the deck wants to do, but it is very heavy leaning on the reliance of getting your commander Henzie into play and staying in play. There's almost no game plan for actually casting these threats that cost 6, 7, 8, or 9 mana later in the game. There is one creature that ramps an Overgrown Battlement, which I feel really skips some of green's strengths as a color. Red and black also have great ritual mana and a stronger focus on treasure generation, which would have been a great fit for the deck's sub-themes here. Temporary benefit. We get a couple of ramp options this time, Explore, Farseek, and Rampant Growth among a couple more, but they're just not where they should be if we're casting a 3 mana value commander and ideally blitzing a creature into play every turn afterwards. The creature curve is also very high in the deck overall. There's 1 2-mana creature, 1 3-mana creature, apart from our commander, then everything else is 4+ mana. That is so that Henzie can sneak them in, sure, but there's no reason why we can't have a lower end of the curve too. The average mana value on the deck is 4.5, which is a full 1.5 points higher than every other precon from Streets of New Capenna. I get why that is, with the temptation of sneaking in cheaper, bigger threats, but even still, this is far too high without the tools to compensate adequately. First, we need some mana generators. We can bring that curve down by including Fyndhorn Elves, Elvish Mystic, and maybe even Elves of Deep Shadow to make some black mana. This would be a great start, but we could also include Gyre Sage, which sneaking in big creatures would allow it to evolve over and over again, eventually making enough mana on its own to fuel some blitz activations. Let's continue to beef up the mana generation by adding in 2 more mana ramp options. We don't have to rely on artifact mana if we're relying on creature mana, treasures, and ramp spells. Nature's Lore and 3 Visits are great since they can allow you to cast your commander and a 1 mana spell on turn 3. Let's also add in some tools to keep our big creatures we snuck in play. Adding in Malakir Rebirth, Fake Your Own Death, and Feign Death means we could be getting all of the benefits of Blitz and keep the creatures around afterwards. Cauldron of Souls can do this too on a larger scale. Tap it to give any number of target creatures persist, meaning when they die they come back with a -1/-1 counter on them. These effects are especially powerful on creatures with Enter the Battlefield effects, doubling up on them for maximum benefit. Speaking of creatures, leaning into creatures with Enters effects is vastly beneficial here. Slum Reaper is a great example. When it enters, everyone sacrifices a creature. For you, this is 3 mana if you're blitzing it, for each opponent to sacrifice a creature and you draw a card. That's a great return. Ravenous Chupacabra is good too. It's an affordable option with a strong Enters the Battlefield effect to remove pesky creatures from the equation. And creatures with Dies triggers are great since Blitz demands you sacrifice them at end of turn. So the new dragons from Neon Dynasty, Atsushi, Junji, and Kira all come in swinging in the air for damage and leave behind a gift afterwards. All told, the deck does what you want it to do. Big creatures at discounted prices, but straight out of the box it lacks giving you the tools to get to the high end of your curve. With the changes I've made, I feel it's much better suited to play at tables against fully constructed decks. Let me know what you think about my list, linked in the description, and what you would add or change about it. What do you think about Henzie Toolbox Torre? Are you planning on building this deck? I always love hearing from you. And, of course, good luck and have fun.